Today's webinar is with the Manitoba College of Social Workers. Are you interested in pursuing a career in social work in Manitoba? Social work strives to enhance human well-being and helps to meet the needs of all people. The Manitoba College of Social Workers is a provincial body that regulates the profession of social work in Manitoba. Social workers are employed in a variety of settings throughout Manitoba, including hospitals, schools, child welfare agencies, and correctional institutions. This session will cover the objectives of the regulatory body, vision and mission statement, professional regulation, qualifications needed to practice in Manitoba, the day in the life of a social worker, questions and answer session with a representative from the Manitoba College of Social Workers. So please welcome Jacqueline from the Manitoba College of Social Workers. Over to you, Jacqueline.
All right, hello everybody. I'm hoping that that transition worked out well, and I'll take any feedback that hopefully everyone is seeing my screen with the presentation. I just thought I'd turn on my webcam just to acknowledge that and say hello, that my name is Jacqueline Shortridge. I'm the Manager of Registration and Professional Practice with the Manitoba College of Social Workers. And today I am going to present to you some information that I hope is helpful to you and hopefully provide some answers to questions that you might have at the end. So again, I'm hoping that you're seeing my screen as I present, but I thought I'd start with some foundational components of just talking about and addressing what is social work. Social work is a profession dedicated to helping individuals, families, groups, and communities enhancing their individual and collective well-being. So again, social work is a broad profession with lots of opportunities and skill sets that can be applied in a variety of settings in a diverse array of contexts, providing services to individuals, families, communities, and or agencies or organizations. So the Social Work Profession Act in Manitoba, which is the legislation that guides the profession of social work in Manitoba, defines the practice of social work, including the following objectives. So the Social Work Profession Act defines social work as with the objectives of accomplishing the core functions of social work, including helping people obtain services relating to their basic human needs, counseling of individuals, families, and groups, and helping communities and groups provide or improve social and health services. Further to this, it is intended to assess, remediate, and prevent social problems encountered by individuals, families, and communities, as well as to enhance individual, family, and community social functioning. The Manitoba College, the MCSW, or the college, and I'll use all of those terms interchangeably throughout the presentation, but we are the provincial body that regulates the profession of social work in Manitoba. And the college, the Manitoba College of Social Workers, receives its authority from the Social Work Profession Act. So to go into that a little bit further, in Manitoba, only members of the Manitoba College of Social Workers are authorized to use the title of social work and or represent themselves as social workers expressly or by implication. And as I go through the presentation, I think I'll explain this a little bit further. So the college has the college's primary goal, our primary intent, our primary aim is to protect the public. The college's mandate with that aim to protect that goal to protect the public, the college's mandate is to promote learning and skill development, regulate the conduct of social workers, promote a greater awareness of social work, and advance the professional interests of members. Our vision as a college is that the MCSW strives for excellence in its mandate to serve the public interest through the regulation and support to the social work profession and in its pursuit of social justice. Our mission is to serve the public by supporting ethical and accountable social work practice. MCSW is committed to promoting and advancing regulated practice that values diversity, equity, and inclusion, and our shared journey in honoring truth and achieving reconciliation. So Manitoba College of Social Workers has an integrated mandate. What this means is that we have a responsibility to regulation and a responsibility to support the profession. I'm going to explain both of these separately to link that and express that understanding related to the integrated mandate that the Manitoba College of Social Workers has. Self-regulation. What does the component of regulation within our mandate and within our legislation state? So professional regulation speaks to and provides the public with the assurance that individuals representing themselves as social workers, so that being using the title of social worker or representing themselves as social worker, that the Manitoba College has a responsibility in ensuring that social workers have the specialized knowledge and skills required for entry to practice. So that's in part when we're going to speak a little bit later about qualifications and entry and application through registration through the Manitoba College. MCSW further defines the requirements and qualifications needed to practice social work in the province of Manitoba, again speaking to the minimum requirements for registration and application to the college to become a registered social worker. Further to this, the college establishes accountability and public confidence through members' adherence to the MCSW's Code of Ethics and standards of practice. And lastly, but in some cases very, very important, the college has the responsibility to further evaluate the conduct of its members in response to public complaints. So we have an ability for individuals from the public community, representatives, individuals receiving services, to initiate or express a concern or a complaint related to conduct. And we have a responsibility to respond and evaluate the conduct of our members as practicing social workers. So I mentioned that we have social workers needing to adhere to the Code of Ethics. So within the Code of Ethics, MCSW has published their own Code of Ethics, aligning to the 6 value statements that are posted here. And within that, there is guidelines and direction. And we have a Code of Ethics that we are responsible to adhere to and practice in accordance with. Within the Code of Ethics are 8 guidelines. Within those guidelines, there are practice directives and indications to align with and guide and support and provide clarity to linking to the value statements that are expressed in the Code of Ethics. And further to this, we have standards of practice. And within each of the 10 standards of practice, we have practice directives that provide clarity and direction and expressly guide practice within the social work practitioners' practice within their area of practice. So when I talked about the integrated mandate, we talked about regulation, and that's what I just reviewed in the last 4 slides. Further to this, we also have a responsibility to support the profession. So in supporting the profession, our responsibilities are also quite vast and large. We have a responsibility to develop and educate and ensure that there is education provided, recognizing our standards of practice, our code of ethics, providing continuing competency and requirements and expectations. So again, supporting the profession to attend to their ongoing life learning and ongoing learning and continuing competency as professionals. We provide support in consultation related to ethical decision-making tools, in applying the Code of Ethics as we've presented it, as well as providing consultation to members as they navigate complex or ethical decision-making matters. We provide opportunities to be involved in organized reconciliation efforts. We advocate for the profession and for social justice, both provincially and nationally. We educate the public regarding the importance of social work of the social work profession. We raise credibility. We provide networking opportunities to our members. We also provide recognition through awards and education scholarships, as well as provide access to affordable and applicable professional liability insurance that is a requirement for all practicing professionals with the Manitoba College of Social Workers. So this kind of breaks us down to qualifications and who must register with the college. I think it's important to understand the importance of proceeding through education and then moving forward to the application process to become a registered social worker in Manitoba. So who must register with the Manitoba College of Social Workers? If one wants to and is seeking to use the title of social worker, you must be a registered social worker in the province of Manitoba. So if you're using the title of social worker and or registered social worker or any variation of this designation, you must be registered with the college. So again, I'm a practicing social worker. I am registered with the Manitoba College, and I have both a bachelor's of social work and a master's of social work. And so again, to use the title of social work, I need to be able to be registered. If I also want to be able to represent myself as a social worker, so again, this is by when I talked about by explicit or implication earlier on, individuals who represent themselves or hold themselves out to be social workers, regardless of their position. So individuals may or may not have the job title or designation within their context of their employer, but regardless of that position or regardless of that designation, if you are holding yourself out or representing yourself to be a social worker, you are required to be registered with the college. So this speaks to scope of practice. So again, we have parameters provided by the Canadian Association of Social Workers related to scope of practice. We look at job descriptions, and if by way of the job description and or by way of education that someone is hired, given their background and their education as a Bachelor of Social Work graduate or a Master's of Social Work graduate, and they're hired with that, and that the job description aligns with the practice and the scope of practice of a social worker, then that means that you need to be registered as a social worker, regardless of whether your title in your job position holds the title of social worker. Again, practitioners must consider whether their practice or conduct would lead a reasonable member of the public to believe that they're a social worker. So again, in speaking to representation, as well as any individual who chooses to use the sign, display, or advertisement. Again, looking at business cards, email signatures, signatures within a website. Again, if there's an indication that you're practicing as a social worker and fulfilling social work tasks or duties, you need to be registered with the Manitoba College of Social Workers. So again, looking at and anticipating who's going to be participating today, I looked to speak to the qualifications needed to practice in Manitoba for applicants with an international social work degree. Again, individuals who seek to come to Manitoba to seek education in social work, again, you'd be seeking your social work education in Canada, and there's a slightly variation, a variable route in that way, but I'm going to focus for the presentation on applicants with an international social work degree. So we have two main key requirements that need to be completed before an application for registration can be initiated with the Manitoba College of Social Workers. First and foremost, again, when an individual is looking to apply, we need to assure and understand clearly that you are legally entitled to work in Canada. So again, we need to have documentation and information clearly articulating and stating that you are legally permitted under our social work profession regulation. So again, the Social Work Professions Act follows with social work profession regulation, and followed by that by a series of social work MCSW bylaws and policies. So again, in abidance and accordance with that, we need to have clarity and understanding that you are legally entitled to work in Canada, and applicants must have one of the documents identified here, whether that that you have documentation that you are a Canadian citizen, that you are a permanent resident of Canada, or that you hold a current and or valid work permit issued by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. So again, it's really important to know that we need to have that clarity, and that we have to clearly state and see within your documentation that you are authorized to work within the capacity and in practice areas inclusive of social work practice. So again, if a work permit includes a condition, as outlined in bold there, if the work permit includes a condition that you are not eligible to practice in childcare, primary, secondary school teaching, health service field occupations, that would be a limitation to proceeding with your application for registration with Manitoba College. So it's really important to understand that is step one, that we need to know that you are entitled to work in Canada. The second step is that applicants with an international degree need to have an assessment of their social work education completed by the Canadian Association of Social Workers. So again, the Canadian Association of Social Workers is a national body that supports the evaluation of academic credentials internationally. So again, graduates who hold a university degree in social work, so whether that be a master's of social work or a bachelor's of social work, that was completed either outside of Canada or the United States, we require an evaluation of your education to determine its equivalency to the Canadian social work degree. So again, we look at ensuring that the Canadian Association of Education, or Canadian Association of Social Work, evaluates your international social work education and completes that and submits that report or evaluation to the Manitoba College of Social Workers upon your direction and indication that you're seeking application through the Manitoba College of Social Workers. So again, the website there, and I'm not sure if it's helpful to put that website in the chat, which I can do myself, but again, you're going to be going to the CASW website and looking at seeking to complete an evaluation and assessment of your international degree through the CASW, and they then send their report to us confirming whether your degree meets or matches the equivalency of a Canadian social work degree. If your educational credentials are assessed to be equivalent to a Canadian either Bachelor of Social Work degree or a Master's of Social Work degree, you will have the option to apply for registration with MCSW as an applicant with a social work degree with that documentation provided by CASW. So what does that mean? All of our applications for any route or any opportunity or any pathway for becoming a registered social worker are all available on our website. So our website is quite straightforward. It's mcsw.ca. On the top banner, you're going to see Join the College. When you click on Join the College, you're going to have an opened up series of avenues and opportunities to seek registration with the Manitoba College. And once you've reviewed and assured that you have all of the requirements and meet the criteria to seek application, you're going to click on the applicant member portal and proceed with an application. But we often suggest before seeking and proceeding with the application, we want to make sure that individuals have a full and complete understanding of the general requirements if you are approved to apply, having an equivalent of a social work degree. So really important to note that we do have an application fee, and our application fee is $100 to apply to be a member and a registered social worker in Manitoba. And again, it requires the online completion of information that is required, and the required documentation is listed there. So we need that academic credential evaluation from the CASW. So again, that will be provided to you and can be provided directly to us from the CASW to our registrar. Again, we need to have that verification of legal entitlement to practice or to work in Canada. We need to have a copy of government issued photo ID. So we need to have a clear indication of your photo ID. We need to have a completed criminal record check, including a vulnerable sector search. So again, really important to recognize that we need to have the details related to your criminal record check and vulnerable sector search completed as outlined on the slide here. We also need the completion of a Manitoba child abuse registry check and Manitoba Adult Abuse Registry check, and we need all of these in their original form. So we need to be able to see and view all of the original forms and completion of all of these documentations. Next, we also will require a professional reference. So again, we're going to need a reference of someone who is currently or your most recent supervisor in your most recent employment. So again, we're not looking for references provided for the last 3 or 5 years. What we want to know is we want to have your most current reference from your most current employment and be able to provide that reference. What happens is you're going to provide that information, contact information, name, and an email address and contact information, and then we send out to them the reference form, which they then confidentially resubmit back to us to be included as part of your application form. Again, if there's any name changes, we need to have any proof of any name changes that have occurred over the last period of time that may indicate differentiations specifically related to names that are listed within your degree and previous names that you may have to match all of the documentation. And we also need, any verification of previous registration of any form if you have been previously registered as a social worker in any other jurisdiction or in any other profession. So again, all of this documentation is required as part of our general requirements to apply for to the Manitoba College. Again, if there are any documents that are not in English or French, notarized translations will be required and will be listed in terms of expectations. And we do provide links and information related to this, all on our application website related to specific requirements. But I'm just providing a snapshot view of this information. If your educational credentials are not assessed as equivalent to a Canadian social work degree, you may have the option to apply as an applicant without a social work degree and under our substantial equivalency pathway. Again, the same general application requirements that I just reviewed will apply. However, in addition to this, for individuals whose educational degree are not deemed equivalent to a social work degree in Canada, you will have to provide additional information and meet minimum requirements in order to proceed forward in an application for registration with Manitoba College of Social Workers. Some of these minimum requirements include having worked for a minimum of 5,600 hours in direct social work practice within the last 5 years. So again, ensuring that you have practice in what would fit in that scope of practice within what would be defined as social work practice. Again, speaking to completing, and those 5,600 hours need employer verification. So if you've worked in 1 or 2 or 3 different jobs over the last 5 years that are social work specific and are social work related and fit within the scope of practice, we will need employer verification from all of those employers, referencing and indicating that you've practiced as a social worker and meeting the minimum requirements of 5,600 hours. So that's part A. Part B is we also will need to complete an evaluation of your education. So again, part A is the employer verification component of that. And again, from current or recent former employers within the last 5 years. We will look at a review and approval, and then if that area is approved, that your employer verification meets the minimum requirements of 5,600 hours as a social worker in practice, again, we will look to complete and look to assess an educational or complete an educational evaluation. However, this process is quite significant and requires a significant amount of attention to detail on the part of the applicant. So again, we would take the academic credential evaluation report that was sent from CASW to determine what may or may not be missing from your degree. Again, we will ask for the consent to receive that document directly from CASW. We will request official sealed transcript documentation verifying your education in social work related areas. And again, we will ask that you complete a formal education evaluation form, which requires you to submit the syllabi and of all of the courses in the year, the term, and the section that you took that course. So again, matching with your transcript, ensuring that we have the syllabi, the detailed course outline syllabi indicating what the course learning objectives were, what the course assignments were, all of the details related to the syllabi specific to the date, the year, the section, the term that you completed that course. And again, you will have to define and apply, and you will only permitted to use each course once, but you need to apply those to amount to 60 credit hours of social work related education in categories outlined within our application form. So again, attending to social work theory and research and practice skills. And so we have 5 skill set areas that need to be attended to, and a complete evaluation of your own education needs to be submitted along with the transcripts, along with the syllabi, and an evaluation of your education is completed under that road. It is a very significant process that can be very overwhelming and daunting, and needs to meet the minimum requirements of 60 credit hours in social work specific education related content within your degree. So again, if the credential evaluation completed by CASW suggests that you're short on potentially practicum hours, but the evaluation of your course content may be applicable, you may be eligible to proceed to the next step if and upon the evaluation of your education, that criteria is all achieved and met. For those applying through the substantial equivalency route by application, once and if your of education evaluation is approved, you would then be approved to proceed to completion of the Association of Social Work Boards exam in the category in which you have completed your degree. So if that's a bachelor's level or a master's level, you will complete the corresponding exam completed by the Association of Social Work Boards, and then the final evaluation will be reviewed upon successful completion of the exam, and then you would proceed towards registration. All approved applicants for registration are required to obtain and maintain professional liability insurance and state this within their application declarations. So for context, once someone is approved, once their application for registration is approved, and again, each application for registration comes through to me as manager of registration and professional practice, and also goes through to the registrar for approval. If an application is approved to proceed, social workers in the practicing category, so social workers in the practicing category are permitted to use the title of social worker and permitted to state that they and represent themselves as social workers. Again, the annual fees for registration are $360. If an individual chooses to be in the non-practicing category, that means that you may not be employed currently. That may be that someone might be on a parental leave or maybe seeking employment. Again, a non-practicing member, the annual registration fees are lower. However, that individual is a non-practicing member of the Manitoba College of Social Workers, however, is not permitted to use the title of social worker and is not permitted to represent themselves as a social worker, as they are in the non-practicing category. You can, pardon me, you can switch between those two categories. And again, what's important to note is that if you're seeking to be employed and practicing, that you're going to be looking to be in the practicing category. We have some category designations for individuals who may go into the non-practicing category for various reasons. And I wanted to just note that we do have two categories with respect to registration fees. Pardon me. Again, if you apply in November, for example, I'll just note this, that our fees are prorated. Our registration year is April 1st to March 31st. So we do prorate the annual registration fees based on our annual registration year. So we're talking about a day in the life of a social worker. That is very complex and overwhelming in Manitoba, as we have a variety of service areas and areas of practice within Manitoba that employ and engage social workers in practice. So again, there are diverse practice areas, and a social worker may be working in one or more area at the same time. And these are just a snapshot. We do have other categories, and certainly we have individuals working in government positions, non-government positions, small nonprofit organizations and agencies. There's a vast array and variety of areas in which a social worker with a generalist BSW or Bachelor of Social Work degree can practice in, and can move and alternate within different practice areas depending on their areas of interest, practice experience, practice advancement and expertise. And so again, we have individuals practicing all over the province in a variety of settings. Again, and these are just a few of those settings, just for context and information, to again look at the vast opportunities that your social work degree can afford you in practice in Manitoba. And last, I'd just like to do a brief introduction of the staff. Again, we have our Executive Director and Registrar, Barb Temmerman, myself as the Manager of Registration and Professional Practice. We have our Manager of Regulatory Practice, who again navigates the complaints process with respect to information received pertaining to complaints and regulatory practice, as well as investigations and outcomes. We have our Administrative Coordinator, our Manager of Regulatory Practice is Vicki Burgess. Our Administrative Coordinator is Emily Finley, and our Member Services Coordinator is Susan Chakowski. So again, we are a small team who is providing services across Manitoba to social workers and applicants to the Regulatory College, as well as members of the public, as again, reviewing our primary goal and mandate is specific to the protection and well-being of the public. So I will pause there for shifting into the Q&A opportunity. And I'm just going to take myself off camera for this period, just so that I can have a sip of water and hand it over to Sonia with respect to the Q&A.
All right, great. Thank you, Jacqueline, for that informative presentation. Now we'll open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions? Again, please type your questions in the question panel box or raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask your question. We welcome both English and French questions and we will try to get through as many as time permits.
Est-ce que vous avez des questions? Veuillez taper vos questions dans la boîte du panneau y dédié ou levez la main et nous vous débloquerons afin que vous puissiez poser vos questions. Nous essayerons d'en poser autant que le temps le permettra. Bien à vous.
All right, so I'm just taking a look at our question box. We have some questions coming in, which is fantastic. So our first question is from Jared. Jared is asking if there are any language level requirements. If so, would they be for internationally trained social workers or for new students? So, Jacqueline, for the application process, is there language requirements required?
We don't specifically articulate language requirements. However, there may be language requirements in employment. So again, when we're looking at, again, in Manitoba, we have a strong Francophone community, as well as many of the services are provided in English and or French. Again, so it may not be specific to a language requirement from the college specifically. However, that may come into play in employment settings with respect to registered social workers practicing within the community. For education, I believe that was the other question. Many of the programs across Canada do have English proficiency requirements upon admission to the programs across Canada in various jurisdictions.
Okay, great, thank you. On to our next question. So this individual is asking, what are some job titles that perhaps that a job seeker can apply for that's not technically a social work title, but is similar to that type of skill set? So I don't know if you could provide maybe the audience with some examples.
Sure. So there may be job opportunities that may exist, for example, where a case manager, a family services worker, a child protection worker, there may be job titles that may be social work positions, however, and would require registration. However, whether it's various government agencies or organizations have changed the job title. So again, outreach worker, there's a range of titles that may not be specifically articulated as a social worker. However, when you look at the scope of practice and you look at the job description, it aligns and matches with the profession of social work. So again, those individuals would seek to be registered with the Manitoba College, given that they're hired on the basis of their social work education and that they're practicing within the scope of practice as a social worker. But again, those are some examples that may be provided.
Okay, great, thanks. Those are all good examples. Our next question is in regards to an individual who is actually studying abroad, social work, and they were just wanting, I guess, some advice about they would like to possibly do their work experience here in Manitoba. And they're just wondering if you have any suggestions on what is the best way for them maybe to connect to an employer once they've graduated from their program back home.
So I guess can I clarify that question? Are they looking to do their field placement, or are they looking to, so in terms of doing their educational work experience field placement, or are they looking to, upon graduation, moving to Manitoba to practice?
So it's actually for their internship. They would like to do their, I guess, their field placement, yes, here in Winnipeg. Yeah.
Totally fair. Thank you for clarifying. Again, I see them as distinct and having practiced in the field. Again, if they're looking to seek opportunities in Manitoba, there is going to be some competition because we do have 3 universities seeking field placement in the province of Manitoba. So again, reaching out to employers depending on area of interest. So again, I apologize. I wish I could go back to my slides for a moment, but if I went back to, and I do have one more slide just so folks have contact information for us that I hope I can show at the end. But if we were to look at the diverse practice areas, again, it would be probably looking, and oh, thank you, perfect. I appreciate that very much. Sorry, is that showing screen number 3?
Yes, yeah, we can see your presentation.
Perfect, okay. So again, if you're looking to apply, we have a variety of child protection agencies. So again, doing some research to navigate, if you're interested in child protection, looking at we have 4 different authorities in Manitoba. So navigating and looking at seeking opportunities to reach out and make connections. It may be specific to your area of practice and area of interest, by then moving forward into navigating as to whether any of those organizations and agencies currently have a social worker that is willing to accept, and that may usually proceed to an interview process, even on a platform like this or Zoom or Cisco or Teams or whatever platform works. Most typically field instructors are seeking to interview field placement students prior to accepting them, but there are certainly opportunities, and then that would likely be an agreement between your university and the employer with respect to legal affiliation agreements and contracts to proceed with that. But it probably would start with navigating your area of interest to then navigate through the community agencies and organizations that provide or that employ social workers within the province of Manitoba.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Our next question is quite interesting. So this question is in regards to they're wanting to know if you can perhaps provide an answer to this question, and maybe it's more for the universities, but this individual is asking, is there a possibility to challenge university classes if a person has a certain amount of relevant work experience?
Typically, in terms of, typically not a number of courses in terms of work experience. Some universities across Canada, so that would be looking at the Canadian Association of Social Work Education. So again, when you're looking at accredited universities across Canada, some university programs do offer, in lieu of a first field, this is per accreditation for the Canadian Association of Education, Social Work Education, per accreditation, some schools are permitted to provide a prior learning assessment and recognition course in lieu of a first field. And so that's an opportunity where applicants, again, can be variable at different universities. It's typically that minimum of 3,500 hours or more is typical within the last 5 years. But again, I can't speak to all universities, but there is often an opportunity to challenge the first field placement requirement that can be fulfilled, but you are still taking a course connected to, but you're not having to do the hours associated. So again, minimum requirements across Canada are 700 hours in field placement. Again, there's variability across Canada above 700 hours, but sometimes there's the opportunity to complete, it's often referred to as PLAR or prior learning assessment and recognition, but that would be typically one of the only courses that could be challenged aligned with work experience. Sometimes some of the programs will seek applicants with prior work experience in terms of their eligibility criteria with prior coursework and work experience to complete a degree in a more condensed period of time. But there's variation across Canada. And again, that would be something I would navigate someone to look at the Canadian Association of Social Work Education, CASWE, will be the website you'll look for.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have another question here. This individual has actually started, has submitted their transcripts to CASW already. And so now they're just kind of waiting through confirmation of, the next steps and outcomes. But they're also, I guess, wanting maybe some tips or suggestions on while they're waiting for their outcome, what type of work, opportunities could they be looking for, or would maybe help them to achieve, the long-term goal as a registered social worker?
Sure. So again, depending on when you submitted your information for review and evaluation, I always suggest to navigate some of the requirements that we have in addition to. So again, some of the required checks that we would require in application to the Manitoba College of Social Workers are going to be some of those required checks for employment as well. So when we're talking about the police check, the criminal record check, and vulnerable sector search, the adult abuse registry check for Manitoba, and the child abuse registry check for Manitoba, those things are going to be helpful things to have on hand. Again, they're going to be beneficial for you for your application to the Manitoba College of Social Workers, but those are going to be opportunities to seek. So when we're talking about job opportunities, again, looking at sometimes it's dependent on areas of interest. That's where it gets a little bit challenging for me to direct someone specifically on opportunities. Again, looking at the variety of child protection agencies and organizations. Again, looking at some organizations will have opportunities that one can start working in prior to registration. So there'll be jobs that may be leading up to some social work positions. A lot of those might be in community living and disability services. They might be in some of our nonprofit organizations with respect to practice in some of our I'm thinking about domestic violence and prevention strategies. They could be in childcare and or some of the needs that we have related to supported living, whether that's in supported living related to youth and or older adults. So there's a range of service opportunities that might exist, and that's certainly something that is difficult without knowing what someone's areas of interest are, but hopefully that provides some examples.
Well, that was great. I guess I have a question for you. What would you say is the most in-demand service areas for social workers?
In demand.
Yeah, like is there one kind of area that's more in need of social workers, or do you think it's just like across the board there is that?
I think social workers are, I think particularly, again, and part of the social work is essential. That comes from our Manitoba presentation, but also from our Canadian Association of Social Workers. Again, social workers are in demand and essential in connection to the provision of supports and services related to mental health and well-being. That can be related to the health and well-being of families, related to child safety and protection. That can be connected to individuals who are navigating and navigating new systems related to transitions to individuals, navigating systems related to being newcomers to Canada, being connected. So again, some of the things, bringing the skills that you have from your experiences and bringing that experiential learning to practice to be able to support others that may be in similar or different situations, but navigating similar battles related to transitions. Again, healthcare, social workers in long-term care, those are expanding in Manitoba with respect to the occurrences that happen through COVID, older adult care services. I think it's a broad general demand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty broad.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I was just curious, and yeah, I kind of thought that the need is everywhere in all service areas.
And I think in all service areas, and even when we're talking about homelessness, and we're talking about safety and provision of housing first models, and safety and well-being, and substance use and misuse implications related to. So the opportunities for a social worker to practice in Manitoba are broad and vast.
Right. Yeah. Which is great. Lots of opportunities there.
Yes.
It's so fabulous. Well, thank you again, Jacqueline, for joining us today, and thank you to all the participants for your excellent questions. Don't forget that Manitoba Start is here to assist you by providing services such as personalized career coaching, developing your resume, or job search assistance to help you find sustainable employment. Before you go, can you please help us by completing the short 1-minute survey that will pop up when you leave the webinar? Your input will help us deliver labor market information that meets your needs. Please follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest events. So on behalf of Jacqueline from the Manitoba College of Social Workers and the Manitoba CERT team, thank you for attending and stay well.